I was born into a lower middle-class English family. My mother was, and is, a housewife, and my father worked in an electronics company. He is now a lecturer in electronic engineering. My father came from a Catholic background and my mother from a Protestant one. They both shared a short spell in the Quaker Church in the early 1970s, but by the time I was born, they were strong atheists and religion was no longer mentioned in our house, let alone practiced. My parents had decided that if I wanted to be religious when I grew up, they would support it. From a very young age I believed in God, even though I wasn't brought up with that belief, but I still had the feeling that what I was taught at the Christian school I attended wasn't right. I didn't believe in Jesus or the Holy Spirit and it all seemed false to me, but at school we were told that it was the only right way and all other religions were wrong. So I was very confused. When you're a child, you assume that adults are always right. What they say goes. Still, I couldn't let it go. So, probably very wisely, I decided to keep my belief in the one God private. I felt guilty for believing in something that was wrong. I felt ashamed and hoped and prayed that I could stop being a heretic soon. When I was young, I was very exposed to the fear of Islamic fundamentalism, especially with the Salman Rushdie issue on people's minds. I was very afraid of Muslims in general. There were 2 Muslim children in my elementary school, but they kept their beliefs private, except for the fact that the younger child, Ali, refused to pray in assembly. I had always prayed to God to show me the right path and I turned to God for help. There was no doubt in my mind that God existed when I was 11 or 12 years old, and in high school I began to realize that perhaps my belief in the one God wasn't wrong. At that time I hadn't really heard of Islam. All I knew about it was that it was a violent religion that treated women like scum. We were taught in school that Islam was spread by the sword, in other words, through violent and forced means, that women in Islam were personal property symbolized by their clothing, and that Muslims worship Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I was really upset, and every time I saw a Muslim woman when I was shopping in Manchester, there are few Muslims in my area, I thought, how can you do that to yourself? I was very angry. However, we were taught one true thing: that Muslims believe in one God, something I honestly didn't know before that. I looked into all the other religions, Judaism, Hinduism and Buddhism, but they all seemed so man-made and contradictory. However, one day, I don't know what came over me, I just thought I had to check whether what I had been taught was true or not. I was also curious because I had been told that Muslims believed in a God and I wanted to see if it was true or not. I saw a book called Elements of Islam in the local library and secretly picked it up. I went straight to the section on Muslims and was absolutely amazed by what I read. It was contrary to what I had been taught about Islam and women and better than anything I had ever heard. I had no doubt in what I read. I knew it was true, and I knew in my heart that all my prayers had been answered. Islam was the truth I had been searching for all my life. I still feel bad about feelings like that, the old guilt from my elementary school days. How could I believe in this wrong religion? I tried to find evidence to prove to me that Islam wasn't the truth, but it was impossible. All the books that said negative things about Islam, I already knew they were lying. All the books that said positive things about Islam, I knew they were telling the truth. I decided that I should be a Muslim, even though I couldn't accept it, and I didn't tell anyone. I read all the books I could get my hands on. I got a translated copy of the Quran from the library, but I couldn't understand it because it was all in archaic English. That didn't discourage me. I knew it was only a translation, and what I could understand of it, I liked very much. I knew that Islam was a lifelong decision, that there was no turning back, so I really wanted to be sure. I studied for 2.5 years before joining a chat room in January 1997 that would change my life. It was the chat room on an Islamic website, and the people were very helpful. The second time I joined, I made the Shahada, declaration of faith that makes one a Muslim, in front of